to know the artist behind the epic melodies, songs, and beats. Celebrating the best new music from around the world. This is the A State of Trance podcast.
Hey, what's up? My name is Ruben Ronde and welcome to a brand new A State of Trance podcast. And it's for the very first time that someone's here in the podcast that I've already visited in his podcast as well. Welcome, Bryan Kearney.
Ruben, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm very much looking forward to this talk because what I experienced from being on your podcast, I realized that you're such a good interviewer. So I have to make sure that I do my best.
Pressure's on, man.
The pressure is on, exactly, yeah. So what we're going to do with this podcast is dive into the history of yourself, your career. I have written down a couple of tunes, so we kind of made a timeline just to go everything. And I would love to have some more insight on certain things and certain choices in your career. Besides that, we also have a lot of questions from the fans. I think it's the record amount of questions that were submitted. So we have to go through that as well and make sure that this podcast is not 3 hours long.
Whatever you want to do, man.
So that's it. All right. The first question that I always ask is, how did you fall in love with dance music?
Well, it probably all started for me back in the 90s. Grew up just out 10 miles from Dublin city centre, and pirate radio was the main thing and the main source of like finding out, or not necessarily finding out, but listening to all these incredible records, etc.
And pirate radio would be like illegal radio.
Yeah, so like for the younger listeners this was before the days of streaming and everything like that. So there was like radio stations in Dublin called like Club FM and Vibe FM, and they just played basically all this type of music that I'd never heard before, and I became obsessed with it. And obviously back then what we did was we used to wait by the radio with our fingers on the record on the cassette, trying to record our favorite tracks and like making mixtapes and stuff like that. So that's how it all started for me. I just became obsessed with it, and when I was about 17, I was working in a sports store selling trainers, sneakers, shoes.
That's where runners. You have the fetish form.
Yeah, yes. Exactly. Yeah. So I was working with a guy there who actually was a DJ in like the local nightclub near to where I'm from, but like the mad thing was he was a DJ for years, but he couldn't actually mix. So he had this set of decks for sale, but it was like, do you remember the old school set of decks?
Wait, he was playing in a club, but he couldn't actually mix?
No,
okay.
Couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
So he had this set of decks, which were like, do you ever see the ones that would have been in a pub or a bar, which was like a big square sort of thing? Yeah. Not like these ones that we have now, just like a...
Yeah, you would mount it in the wall. Yeah.
That type of thing. So I remember I took all my savings out of the credit union, which is like a savings thing in Ireland, and I bought them off him for like £500 at the time. And that was the beginning of me becoming a DJ. And I always remember my mother saying to me, the funniest thing that I've ever heard, she told me that dance music and DJing was a phase and that I'd soon grow out of it. She couldn't have been more wrong 24 years later.
Well, here you are.
Here, yeah. So basically then I discovered the internet then, and I was a little bit of a pirate back then with regards to the music, and I was finding out that you could download music legally for free on the internet back then. Yeah. So there was these websites like Home of Music. Do you remember that website?
No, I don't know that one.
There was a website called Home of Music. So basically I was able to find music that nobody else had. And what I was doing was I was still in school. I started selling CDs with music on them.
Totally legal.
Completely legal. Yeah. So I won't say what the tracks were, so I can't get in trouble. But basically, how I made money to buy CDs or records, or to go out clubbing, or to whatever. I used to sell CDs to people in school, or I'd find mixes online and I'd sell them to people as well. I made a few quid off of Mauro Picotto set, actually.
Don't listen, Mauro.
Yeah. So that's how it all began for me. And then I'd be locked away in my room, pounding the house over every single day, learning how to mix, teaching myself how to do it. And we'd obviously, when we were younger, we used to go out drinking at the weekends with our friends, whatever. And I'd always make a tape of music and a mix.
I think every single friend group back then had one of these people in their group taking care of the music.
Yeah, that was me. I always had to make a mix, and always had to be my tape that went into the cassette deck. Obviously, no phones, no Spotify back then. So yeah, basically that's how it all began. And then I wanted to sort of start trying to get playing into clubs. So I actually started playing on pirate radio myself.
Yeah.
So I started on it when I was 17. I started on a station, and then I played on that for a year or so, and then I moved on to another station, which was much more more listened to in Dublin. It was called ASG FM.
Mm-hmm.
So I would play in there from 8 to 10 on a Saturday night.
You would go there and take a bag of vinyls with you.
Yeah, massive bag of vinyls. Play on live on air, all records. Sometimes I did play CD, so I would have a CD player which came through the main desk, and I would have to try and mix that with the vinyl coming through the main desk. This is proper old school stuff.
That was hard.
Yeah. But at the same time, it meant I could play tracks that I got off the internet on the radio that nobody else had. So it always sort of set me apart a little bit, where I had music that other people in like Dublin didn't have.
Weird bootlegs or stuff that was not released or
I always
hard to find.
Yeah, like the Yoji Biomechanica remix of Iguana. I remember I played that and like nobody else had that. And nobody else had that for months. So when I was playing on the radio, I was going to a club called the Temple Theatre in Dublin. So I would play on the radio 8 to 10. The show was called Fusion. So I called it Fusion because I played everything. I played progressive, techno, tech-trance, trance. And then I would go to the Temple every single week, hear my favourite DJs play, and that would inspire me more and more and more and more. So yeah, that's how it all began. Pirate radio, presenting on radio, doing live mixes, and sort of just that's how I started off.
So when you're doing Fusion, you were presenting as well. You were saying stuff about the tracks, or you had some information that you wanted to share about the tracks as well.
Yeah, people would send texts in, doing shout outs, people who were partying, listening in. Yeah, so it was good times.
But those times you didn't get any feedback or whatsoever until someone would run into you in the club and say, "Hey, I've been listening to Fusion" or whatever.
Yeah, but the thing was, there wasn't really social media back then, so nobody sort of knew what I looked like, that
true.
sort of way. But like, you'd still be walking around thinking everyone knows who you are because you're on the radio. I was only 18, 19 at the time, you know.
Bigger than Prince.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So, that's how it all started, man. Dublin city centre, obviously I just grew up just outside it, but Dublin was the city and the place where I began my journey to where I am
so
now.
You did your Fusion radio show, and then did you get booked out of that as well into clubs at a certain point?
So like I've always had this drive and determination, and just wanted to always create opportunities for myself. So there was actually a nightclub near to where I grew up called the Hitchin Post, and I actually like went in and spoke to them and said, "Look, I want the chance to try and play." They said no, but then this promoter actually came along and was starting his own night, and I can't really remember how exactly he found out who I was or not, but he gave me an opportunity to warm up for a DJ called Al Gibbs, who was a radio DJ in Dublin, and that was the first gig I ever played. And then moving forward, I just continued to do the radio thing. But then, like, when I was 19 years of age, after going to the Temple Theatre for a couple of years, just as a clubber, I got to know the owner of the club, and he was always really good to me. I don't know why. It was just because I was just this kid. He let me up on stage. All the DJs got to meet him, etc. And I just got talking to him, and he actually gave me the opportunity to do my own night at the Temple. So I went from being some skinny little kid on the dance floor, sneaking in with a fake ID, to 2 years later running my own night in the crypt, it was called, downstairs in the Temple Theatre. So I did like 3 or 4 events. The first one was amazing, the second one was better, the third one peaked, and then of course what happens is it goes downhill after that. So as soon as I started playing in the main room, the club actually started getting really bad. Yeah, it was like it always had this reputation for being a very sort of it was a little bit rough, but that's what sort of gave it its edge and its special sort of atmosphere and stuff. Yeah. But what happened was the club sort of went downhill. So then I stopped playing there, and the club shut down a few months later. But I was still doing stuff on radio. But then I didn't really do any gigs or shows for a couple of years, and like,
but still every Saturday you had your 2 hours on the radio.
I sort of I'd switched to another station then called Kiss FM, and I was doing sort of something more midweek because I was in college and stuff. And then the music thing, obviously, then moving on. A little fact for you, I actually gave John O'Callaghan his first ever mix on air.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
So
that's where the bromance started.
Yeah, that's where it all began for me and John. Yeah, we met each other at Creamfields in 2002. I always remember. I have this crazy memory from remembering things. John won't remember this, but he walked up wearing this like T-shirt that he'd made himself, like a Ravers like luminous writing on it. He probably won't remember it, but I remember.
We have to ask him.
So yeah, like this was when I had sort of started messing about with Fruity Loops at home, making really. I thought it was the most amazing piece of music ever made. My friends went away on holidays, and I spent 2 weeks making this track. And I thought it was incredible, and I sent it off to a few DJs, and obviously they were just being polite to me, saying, "Oh yeah, this is really good. It has potential." I still do this myself, so I know exactly.
It has potential. If you say it has potential, then you're not there.
Yeah. So what happened was John offered to remix it.
Okay.
And it was called The Sound of Fusion was the name of the track. I think I actually have it somewhere, so I might send it to you for you to have a laugh. I'm not going to put it online, but I might send it to you. But so John remixed it, and then that was the beginning of me and John sort of working together studio wise. So then over the next couple of years was I wasn't really doing any gigs. I was working as a cleaner in Intel, a factory near to where I live, and then I started an apprenticeship as an electrician. So I was basically just going out to clubs rather than producing. But I just off the top of my head here now, I remember I was working with a guy called Icon. Do you remember Icon?
Yeah. He had really something inspired and stuff like that. Yeah.
We actually worked together on a couple of things, but we actually made a remix of Paul van Dyk, Another Way. Mm-hmm. And I was at Paul's show at the Red Box in Dublin, and I brought a copy of the track on CD with me, and I managed to get a copy of it to him while he was playing, and then 20 minutes later he actually played the remix in the club. Yeah, it was it was amazing. So yeah, that was the first time I'd heard one of my own tracks or productions. Obviously it was a collab with Icon, but that was the first time, and I just got so inspired by that. So yeah, that was the beginning of it. And then like moving forward, I didn't do any gigs in 2004. I was working as a apprentice electrician, hating it. I never really wanted to do it, but parents being parents, they just wanted to try and look out for myself. Obviously, if someone as a kid or a child says, "Oh, I want to be a DJ," or "I want to do this," obviously as a parent, you're thinking about them, their career and their future, of course. But
in the meantime, while you were doing it, you were still doing the radio. You were still
I was still doing all that, and I was trying to learn how to make tracks. But like even before that, the way I got into production, sorry, just jumping back, was I actually started doing mashups when I was like 17. Mm-hmm. And like I had an alias. I can't even remember what the alias was, but I think it was like DJ Sly or something like that. I had some stupid name for myself. I had like DJ Sly, and I had like a little wink emoji after SLY. So like I was doing these mashups, and I was sending them to a guy called Alex Pepper, who played on like Galaxy over in the UK, and they were being played on that. Like they were. I think they might have, some of them might even got pressed onto vinyl, because they were decent. But like obviously I had the ear for sort of putting stuff together, but I didn't have the technical ability or the know-how how to make music at that time, you know. Yeah. So yeah, moving forward, 2004, 2005, I did one gig in 2005 in Dublin. I remember doing that, and then I was doing a few bits and pieces in Ibiza when I was on holiday. I had some friends living over there, so I could jump on, play back to back. But then moving forward, like I was that's when I started sort of getting into producing as well. Yeah. I did a remix of Fire and Ice, Lost Emotions. John mastered it for me and got it signed to Bonsai, so that was my first ever release. But then me and John started working together as well. We were doing stuff through 2003, 2004. But and
then in 2005 was your first, I would say, single release with Restricted Motion.
Together
with John.
How I came up with the name for that one was, I used to work in an Intel in the factory, and it was like a water cooler sort of thing. Remember the old ones where you used to put the big massive tank in, and it said
to turn it upside down. And
do not lift this if you have restricted motion. So that's how the name of that track
came about.
Yeah. So another story behind that track was myself, John, and Neil were actually on a night out in Dublin. And I got really, really drunk. And I went back to John's apartment, and I stayed in his mate's room, and I got sick all over the bed. But then later on that day, I went home, and I actually made the riff for Restricted Motion. Yeah. I made it with the worst hangover I've ever had in my life. I sent it to John. He goes, let's make something from that. So yeah, Restricted Motion was the first release on Discover. Yeah, that was the start.
That was a good start, I guess, because Discover was one of the major labels in those times as well. And when you came in, I had to ask you to sign as well, because 2006 was the release of this one. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I still remember how we made that track. I went down to, I think John spoke to you before when he was on the podcast with you. Yeah. Well, I remember the date. I remember everything about it. I went down to him on Friday. I think it was around the 11th of February 2006. I know that Trance Energy was on in Holland that weekend. For making the track, we were sitting there for a while. I remember John went to the toilet, and when he came back, I had made most of the riff, just literally playing around by accident. And then literally it all came together, and 18 years later, it's still an iconic track.
Yeah, I told you, if you look up, these vinyls cost at least like $100 right now. So if you had 1,000 of those, no.
I wish I had even one of them myself. I have no idea where they are. Honestly,
No?
God, no.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's one of my prized possessions right now.
Yeah.
I spent a good money as well, but it's such an iconic track, and I have so much memories with it as well, growing up and listening to this as well. So,
well, like I
fantastic tune,
never
exactly.
actually had like turntables or like CDJs growing up. I only had this sort of prehistoric DJ console sort of thing. So like how I learned to mix and putting music together, it was always at my friend's house. Like we go to my friend's shed and we play on the 1210s there. That's what we did every Friday, Saturday night. That's
Just
how
the
I
passion
learned.
for music.
Yeah, I never had CDJs. I never had I bought my first set of CDJs in 2015 or 2016, I think.
Yeah.
But other than that, it was just basically from going to my friend's house and playing.
That's how I did it for years as well. I
Yeah.
didn't have decks at home, to be honest. So, I had some belt drives, but at a certain point they just died.
Yeah.
So, I know how it feels. But at a certain point, you just play so much. I had 2 residencies growing up, so all the music that I played was on those decks in those. Anyways, 2007, also another track with John Pendulum, and then in 2007, correct me if I'm wrong, there was the first solo release. More to Life and Punchline.
Yeah, they were the first 2 solo tracks ever made. More to Life was called that because I was working as an electrician on a building site, hating my life, hated everything about it, working 12-hour shifts. All I wanted to do was DJ and make music. So basically I called it More to Life because I felt like there was more to life than what I was currently going through. Yeah.
That must have been a hard situation, because that a track like this exactly was being played by everyone.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, you still had to go to the construction sites every early morning.
Every morning, yeah.
And in the meantime, people think that you're some kind of superstar DJ.
Yeah, well, that's the crazy thing. There used to be a column in the newspaper on a Friday morning called Club Mix by Mark Kavanagh, an Irish DJ, but he's a journalist now as well. He used to always do, every single Friday, he'd have like the club listings, everything that's happened, club news. And I'd be in it nearly every single week
with a new track.
Yeah, so like or where I'm playing or what I'm doing. So like all these guys are like, they're eating their breakfast or their lunch and they're reading about me, and they're going like,
"It was a superstar.
Why are you here?
What are you doing? Like, you're in the newspaper all the time. Why are you doing this?"
Yeah, I think that's why when I was coming towards the end of my apprenticeship in 2009, and as I was I was never going to go back doing it. This was what I was going to do full time.
Yeah,
I missed 14 Mondays in a row. But like they knew what I was doing, and they knew I had something else beyond. So they actually didn't even give out to me. It got to the state. No, like I actually got away.
So they knew that you were not showing up on Monday.
I was still working on a building site, and I had gone to Australia to do a tour to play at Sensation White.
Yeah,
and as I explained to you earlier as well, like I was an out of work electrician. I was put on temporary release because there was no work at the time.
Yeah.
And I was going over playing Sunrise Festival after Tiesto.
Yeah.
Filling in for Barry Connell. Unfortunately, Barry Connell passed away, so I was asked to take Barry's place.
For 15,000 people.
15,000 or whatever, yes. I played after Tiesto. I ended up getting voted set at a festival. I got invited back the next year to play at the awards ceremony, and that's what sort of really started everything for me.
Was it the moment for yourself that you were like, okay, now I'm going to give up my job and just focus on this full time? Or
well, I had that in my head from when I was 17. This was all I was ever going to do. But that's probably the moment that proved to me that I could do it, as well as I thought I could do it, and to the best of my ability, and be as good as anyone else that could do it. Yeah.
What took you so long to decide to doing that?
I had to sort of finish my apprenticeship, which took 5 years. So I started it in 2004, and it didn't end until 2009. You have to pass exams, etc. So like probably as part of the deal for me to become a DJ or to do what I want to do, I had to finish the apprenticeship to keep my parents happy. But like my mother and all, they were always very supportive, and like they didn't. My mother understood it a little bit more than my dad, but they always supported me, and they never really gave me any hassle, So.
Because they probably didn't see DJing or producing as a real job.
Yeah, of course. Like I as a parent now, I completely understand that and I get it. But I always said it to them from the very beginning. This was what I was going to do, and I was thankfully I was right.
But I have to say, my massive respect that you finished the apprenticeship and to get your degree and whatever. Because I guess a lot of people in your situation would have just like be like, okay, I've released exactly, I have some more tunes coming up. There's some money coming in. I'm just going to focus 100% on music and don't have any fall net to ball.
Yeah, the thing was, well, Ruben, like I became a DJ at the height of the recession. Like I finished as an electrician in April 2009, which was,
there was no work and
there
nothing.
was nothing. Like so, basically, it was a very, very difficult and challenging time. Like I had money saved, and that's what I was using to pay my rent every single month. I think I used nearly all my savings to pay for my rent. Obviously, I was doing gigs here and there.
Yeah,
but like, it was a risk, and it was difficult. But like, I couldn't be more happy that I did it in the end. You know?
Yeah, must have been some hard nights laying in bed. Like, what the hell am I doing right now?
Yeah, of course, man. But like. The one thing with this job is if you want to get to where you want to get, there's so much sacrifice, man. It's dedication and sacrifice. And like, I spent nearly every single day online making music, getting to know people, getting to know promoters, putting myself out there every single day. And that it all builds up on top of each other bit by bit, because like I had to do it. I had no other option. I wasn't going to go back working on a building site. So I said to myself, look, if you want to do this, you have to do it yourself, and that's the attitude I've always had.
What is the one thing you would say to someone that's in the same situation as you right now?
That's the thing.
Maybe say it to your 20-year-old self.
I've always obviously we love the attention and we love the gratification and being acknowledged by people and all that, but you have to ask yourself, right, like why do you want to be a DJ? I want to stand on stage and people cheer my name. Well, that means you want attention. It doesn't mean you want to be a DJ. I want to have loads of money. Well, that means you just want security.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to share music.
Yeah.
I just felt like this was what I was meant to do, and that's why I wanted to do it.
Didn't care about the fame, about the financial
things.
None of that
shit. No, none of that. It's just if you want to get to where you want to get in your mind or in your dreams, it's about sacrifice, it's about dedication. Like I've missed so much in terms of my personal life with regards to weddings, birthdays, everything, man. Like my wife has had to, we're together 13 years now. Like I've been away so much. She's had to sacrifice as much as I have, you know. It's all about sacrifice. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to put the hours in the studio? Are you willing to put the hours in searching for music that nobody else has? Why do you want to do it? So these are the questions that you need to ask yourself, you know.
And I think that's also the key for like a long career, because people that jump into it just for fame, they come in with the wrong reasons, and you know, they come in and disappear straight away because they realize how much you actually need to sacrifice to do what you do.
Of course, like I've started from the very bottom, Ruben, and it's taken me time to get there. Like I started DJing 24 years ago. Like I only feel that like things only really started going for me when I moved to Rob a Music First. Like that was like 2014, 2015. Like that's 15 years after I began. Like I'd be talking to some of the younger generation that like I speak to and get music off, and like I just try to explain to them, look, it's a long career. Like don't be expecting stuff too soon. Like some of these guys are playing shows that I hadn't done like 10 years ago. It takes time. You need to be patient, just work hard, especially now because there's so much going on in terms of so many people, so many DJs.
The competition has never been so fierce as it is right now.
So it's but if you're genuine and you work hard at it, and if it's coming from the right place, I think that shines through if you're authentic about it, you know?
Yeah, that's very true. So let's continue on the timeline, because when I was listening to your music on preparing all of this, I in 2009 was some interesting stuff as well. Because Chicky Burger, because you started a new alias called The Row Quarter. Why did you do that?
Oh, just silly stuff that happened at after parties where I said I would make a track. Someone said you should make a track called this. Okay, I will. So it's just silly experimentation
but
stuff.
You put it out as well.
Yeah, I put it out. Yeah, I can't remember the label it was on, but we put it out. Yeah, it was almost like an electro-y sort of thing.
Chicky Burger.
Yeah. So that was that one. That was during the heavy partying days. Let's say that, Ruben.
And right now there's a guy with Down syndrome in Australia. I don't know if you saw him on Instagram.
Is it Sean Mills or something like that?
No, it's he says chicken burger all the time as well.
Right,
it's really funny.
Maybe you should collab with him.
Chicky Burger. So that reminded me of that. But on the other side, you had some serious music as well. Your collaboration with Liam Malley, The Odd Half, came out. So on one side you had that one, on the other side the more mimi kind of stuff as well. So and then in 2010 was your remix for John O'Callaghan, Broken, and also for the very first time I found that very interesting because I didn't hear that one before. Collaboration with Peppolini. It's like a full-on techno track called Detroit.
Yeah, there was other stuff in there as well. Like I was doing like remixes and stuff for Discover Dark in 2007, 2008. But like as well, there was a track called "You'll Never Be Forgotten," which I actually played in the mix today. A brand new remix from Lostly, which is coming on Carnage.
Yeah,
but like that track took me 2 years to make. I think it was actually the track I had called it was actually Subculture. That was the name of the track. I don't know whether it was named that before the Subculture thing came along, but that was the name of the track for ages. And then the track got renamed to "You'll Never Be Forgotten" in tribute to Barry Connell. But like that just shows you, like, man, it took me 2 years to make that track, you know,
because it was so emotional.
Yeah, it was, but also to the fact that I was working on a building site. The only time I got to work on a track
was at the end of your apprenticeship.
Yeah, towards the end. Yeah. So yeah, there was other bits in there as well. Obviously, I wasn't really making stuff with John at that stage. We didn't really do any Colin and Kearney stuff from exactly up until Key 4050 actually.
Yeah, that took a long time before that. Yeah. But your track with Peppolini actually was, when I was listening to that, I was like, oh, this is where Carnage comes from.
Yeah. So like, Peppolino, like I worked with him. I got to know him. He sent all his tracks. I used to play them. I was still doing the radio and stuff in Dublin. So like I was doing 2-hour mixes every single week on a Thursday night. And as I said, like some of it was techno, some of it was trance, but his stuff I was playing all the time. But the techno,
I love those.
Yeah, the techno influence has been there for me from the very beginning. Like, like we were speaking earlier on, like my biggest inspiration from the very beginning has been Mauro Picotto, and like I always loved how he combined melodies with beats. He'd play something completely unexpected, and then he'd play something beautiful, and then just
something commercial, and suddenly a banging techno track.
Like, he's always been that. Like I've never really considered myself. Obviously, I get labelled as a trance DJ, but I've always played stuff other than just straight up trance. You know what I mean? I've always had something different. Like back then, the Peppolino stuff and the sort of more rolling techno. Then moving in towards 2010, there was more the hard groovy David Mullion sort of stuff, and then moving more into the teens, it was like a Psy influence in my sets as well. So like I've always had a little bit of influence from elsewhere. I don't think I could play just breakdown after breakdown. Obviously certain shows like say Luminosity, or when I play a Trance Sanctuary, it's a little bit different, but that's basically because the crowd is different, you know?
Yeah, because when I was listening to your set in A State of Trance this week, I was like, okay, this is what all these, the Kikis and the Marlon Hofstads could play as well. And I was like, why aren't you doing those kind of shows as well? Because you have like a certain stamp on your head. Like,
but that's the thing. DJ. Like I'll always get labelled as the trance DJ, and like I've had stuff played by Oliver Heldens has played some of my stuff. Adam Bayer has played some of my stuff. Victor Ruiz has played some of my stuff. Like, so people who I really respect and look up to have played my stuff. But I think because of where I come from and how my name is always ingrained in the trance scene, it's always going to sort of pigeonhole me, and sort of there's always going to be that sort of elitist sort of thing, and that's what I'm finding out. Sorry, just jumping forward to now with all of the Kearney, the techier stuff that I'm doing. It feels like I'm sort of starting at zero because I'm sending out these demos and like people don't want to sign them, but that's sort of the beauty of it as well. It feels like it's fresh and it's a new start for me to try and accept.
Do you have the ambitions to take that Kearney alias to, like, let's say, Awakening? Something like
of course I'd love to, but I'm a realist about it as well. Like there's people who I think are incredible techno producers who've never played Awakening. So the reality of me ever playing there is it's probably just a dream or a pipe dream, because there's politics and stuff involved as well. But obviously I would love to. Yeah, like I look at some of the hard techno parties and the Clang Quensler, some of the shows he does, and the crowds just going absolutely mental. It's like I'd love to do something like that. But
that's how it was for the trance crowd back in days.
Yeah, of course. Like that's the era that I come from, you know. It's just, I'd love to. I would honestly love to do something like that. Whether it ever happens now or not, it's up to me as well.
Yeah, that's up to you.
Harder I work, the more chance it happens.
It's I think in your case as well is that if you visualize something and you put a goal in your mind, you can absolutely achieve it because you have the talent and the skills for it. So why wouldn't you be able to do that?
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a go anyway, for sure.
If you ever play Awakenings, I can come with you, right?
No problem. You can be my +1, man.
Yeah, let's go. All right, back to the timeline, because in 2010 was a pivotal point in your career as well, because you started your own label, Carnage Recordings, with the next chapter.
Yeah,
that was probably the title was based on like, okay, this is my next chapter.
Yeah,
the label.
Yeah, so basically I started the label because I was at that stage, I was sort of making music that wasn't really being signed by labels. So I'd be sending stuff to say Armada or Spinning and labels like that, but they didn't really want to sign it. Looking back, the tracks
2010 was a weird time also music-wise, to be honest. Yeah.
So I wanted to basically just start my own label called Carnage Recordings. The thing is, like I've had my name mispronounced, misspelled for years. So like my name is Bryan Kearney. The E is silent in my name. So like it being called Carnage, Carnage or whatever people call it, it wouldn't make any sense.
This is our fault as well.
No. It's completely understandable. But like, just like, so I wanted to start a label, started a radio show then at the same time. And it was just basically, it started out as a way for me to put my own music out without having to deal with any A&R, to be just myself and to put out whatever I wanted to put out. And then as the label developed and as it went on, I started signing stuff from other people and that. And like, what is it, 14 years old now? And I think I'm just coming up to release 144. So I've always had the idea of quality over quantity. Like that's what's that, 14? It's basically 10 to 12 releases a year in 14 years. Yeah. I'm very, very, very picky with what
and most of them are your own releases.
Most of them would be, and then I have, say, a certain amount of people who I will work with on a regular basis. Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess one of the key things needs to be that you would be able to play those tracks in your sets.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, like quality over quantity.
Yeah.
And every track that you sign is also something that you heavily support, like for a long time as well, or is it just like I kind of like this, but
it's a very potential. Small pool of tracks that I've signed and released and gone like, I don't know why I've signed that. There's maybe 3 or 4. Other than that, I've always signed stuff that I really believe in and I feel is a good track. Yeah,
makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
2010 was also the track release I've Had My Fun.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
That one was there's a comedy show in Ireland called Father Ted, and there's this famous character. It's about priests. Like if you're from Ireland or the UK, you'll know what Father Ted is. But basically, there's this character in it who does whatever he wants, and he's playing a stereo really loud, and he gets given out to, and he goes, "I've had my fun, and that's all that matters." So that I basically just took the vocal and put it through like a text to speech thing and put it into the track. Yeah, that was a
interesting one. So in the meantime, while you were launching Carnage Recordings as well, by the way, I have to give a shout out to Adele, because the first time you came to us, I think it was Den Bosch, or was it Utrecht, that you came to the studio and she had a sign with with like a car and a leg with a point to the knee.
And a knee, it was in
because
Den
we
Bosch,
were always saying Bryan Kearney, Kearney, and it was like, okay, and we still butcher it sometimes as well, because it's such in the system. So
it's fine, man.
I had to give a shout out over there as well.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, you started the label, but you also released Goosebumps, which was on Subculture.
That was on Subculture. Yeah, that was another track that took me a long, long time to make.
Yeah, because that was one of the first full uplifting tunes, like uplifting tunes that you did in a long time.
Yeah. I called it Goosebumps because when I was making it, I actually looked at my arm and I actually got goosebumps when I was making it. So that's how the name came about. But but like, just coming back to the production thing, like, I don't think I'm that amazing of a producer technically. Like, that Goosebumps tracks took me a long, long time to make. Same, You'll Never Be Forgotten. Just like, compared to some of the people that I've been in the studio with, I don't feel like I'm anywhere near that level. It's just that.
But in the meantime, you have 2 trophies at home.
Yeah,
that's Tune of the Year.
But like I found a way that works for me.
Yeah.
But like I'm not trying to just downplay myself or anything like that. It's just I've been in the studio with people like, say, Paul Maddox from Spectre. He's on a different level to me or whatever I'll be on. Same with John. John is an unbelievable producer. Giuseppe. These people. Technically, I don't think I can sort of be as good as them, but I found my own way to compete, you know, and make tracks to the best of my ability. Yeah.
I think you're doing a good job with that.
Thank you.
Also, 2000 and actually that is 2012, first 2011, because I remember in between all the really hard stuff that you were releasing, suddenly you had Snatam Kar On Namu, which was 130 BPM.
It was, yeah.
I didn't see that coming back then. I still remember that you put that out. I was like, hey, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
How did that come about? Like, why did you decide to do that?
I was going through a very, very difficult time in my life, and I was down in my brother's house, and this song randomly came on the iPod or something like that. And I was there like, what is that track?
Yeah.
And it ended up being that track. So I went home, found a track, and I started building my own version sort of behind it.
Yeah.
And amazingly, that track is actually 130 BPM as well.
Yeah, it was 130,
the actual original is 130 as well, so I made it quite easy. And I actually had signed it to Garuda, but then they sort of turned it down, and then we signed it to FSOE after. Yeah, but it's completely different to anything I've ever done before. Yeah, it was
and never done after also.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I wish I still had that file, because it was a nice little file that could have probably made something else from it. But yeah.
I mean, you still
pure
have
experimentation.
You still have it at least, yeah. And out of all of those releases came the first remix for Armin as well. You did a few of them, but the first one was for Serenity in 2012.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to jump forward to 2014, because that was a big year for you, because you managed to score the Tune of the Year with your remix for Gareth Emery and Bo Bruce.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you still remember that Gareth gave you a ring, or how did that go?
Yeah,
how did they ask you to do the remix?
I remember everything, man. I heard that the opportunity for that remix was coming about, so I actually mailed Craig. Craig Connolly was A&R, sort of working at Garuda at the time. I said, look, man, please give me the opportunity to do this. I promise you I won't let you down.
Yeah.
And I was playing, I got the go-ahead to do it.
Yeah.
And then I had a flight from Dublin to Washington, DC, and I spent nearly the whole flight deconstructing other tracks that I felt were incredible.
Just analyzing.
I analysed, like, one of them was like John's remix of Concrete Angel. I went through the whole track and go like, what's that sound, right? How can I sort of recreate that?
Yeah.
I went through sort of other tracks from other artists. I don't want to say what they are, because if I say it, you'll know exactly what. I'll tell you after.
Yeah.
But
no one's listening. You can tell.
Yeah. So like I went through all other tracks. Said, right, I like this lead. Maybe if I take this, move this around, this can work here. So I completely reversed engineered some of the biggest vocal tracks in the last few years, and I put that into how I was going to make use. So I'd never really done that with a track before. It was very, very mechanical in the way that I did it, you know. And I have to say a big thank you to Giuseppe Ottaviani as well, because he helped me with the mix down on that one. He did a stem master for me on that, and then his stem master went to another unbelievable audio engineer who took that then to a next level. So like, without those guys, that track wouldn't be what it was.
The most important thing is the ideas, and the execution. It doesn't need to sound like as pristine as it did, but it does. And it got voted Tune of the Year.
Of course, but like, you have to think of the source, where it came from, how good the vocal is, how musical it is, the melodies. Like, all I really did was I took the main melody and I turned it into a big arpeggiated supersaw, which turned into the main part of the track. But like for me, when I'm making a remix or doing like that, it's all about how good the original is, how good you can make your remix. Yeah. Because you need to remember that year as well, the track didn't really get a full release, but I also remixed Plum Need You Now, which was probably just as good as you and has been as well received. Mm-hmm. But the only reason it's so good is because of the source material that I was given to remix.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I remember when I found out that I got the award, we were actually tidying the house or something. But I remember we were listening in because there was no video stream or anything like that.
No, just audio. Yeah.
And it was absolutely, it was incredible. It was I'm very, very proud of the fact that it has happened. You know, I am proud of moments like that in my career.
And can you believe that it's already 10 years ago?
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, I still remember it like yesterday that we put together that episode. And like I said, it was before anything with video came along, because that was episode 800 and this must have been like 600, episode 6 something like that. But it was well deserved, because I remember a lot of people were voting for that tune, and I think it's after 10 years, it's still fresh.
Yeah, it does. It sounds so fresh, but I think it's down to the final production that went into the track that made it sound so big and why it sounds so good overall. Yeah, so I thank you to Giuseppe and Walter Coelho, who took that track from being what it was into what it became. Yeah.
And one of the key things that you can learn from that, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening and you are a young producer, is that don't be afraid to ask other people to mix down your tracks. Because
this was something sorry to interrupt you. This was something I really wanted to talk. Like when I was younger, I'd say in my 20s, I thought I have to do everything myself. If I don't do everything myself, I'm not a real artist. If I don't master it myself, I'm not a real artist. If I don't do this, I couldn't be more wrong. I
think you have to compare it to football players.
Yeah.
Like if you're an artist and you're coming up, you cannot be and the keeper and the attacker and the midfield. Yeah. If you are a fantastic striker, you still need a midfield or someone in the goal. So you don't have to be fantastic at everything. It's impossible.
Yeah.
So if I use stem mastering as well because I think I have the good ideas, but for the final bits and pieces, the mixing mastering is like a whole different craft.
Completely different.
It's science, you know. Yeah. So I think you should put away the pride and or not necessarily pride. You should just make sure that your music becomes the best it can be, and ask someone to help.
Yeah, I think some people don't realize, like the people at the very top, the massive people who are playing on main stage, that they have full teams behind them.
Singers, songwriters, the people working 24/7 on their music.
The guys on stage sometimes are just the face of the project that is represented on stage. So like sometimes you need to realize, like if you're at home making music on your own and it's actually to a decent level, you're probably more talented and have more in your locker than these people that you idolize, you know? Yeah,
just need to be better at marketing sometimes.
Yeah, that's exactly the way it's going now,
Sorry, I had to drink for 1 second. 2015 brought your remix of the anthem, of course, together. And 2016, I remember hearing this track for the first time was By My Side with Christina Novelli, which was signed to Our Mind. What can you tell about that? About the collaboration? Because that's probably one track that you still play in your sets as well.
Yeah, it's inspired by sort of heartache and tragedy, which most of the bigger emotional trance tracks that I have, they're all inspired by stuff that's happened to me in real life. So like my dad passed away in January of 2022, and By My Side was a track that I made basically as soon as he passed.
Yeah.
So I had contacted Christina Novelli and Roxanne saying, look, this is the situation I'm going through. I really would like a vocal to sort of express how I'm feeling and to fit in with the track that I made. And I remembered that like I literally got the vocal. A State of Trance was on the Saturday in Utrecht. Was it on Utrecht back then? 2016?
Must have been just about.
I got the vocals on the Thursday, and then something had to be Thursday. Managed to get the vocals in on the Friday, and then played the first version on the Saturday. I played after Ben Nicky in 2016. So that was the story. That
must have been an emotional moment.
Like that track sort of hits me hard at times, you know. I can feel the pain in that track, and what Christina did was she sort of expressed how I was feeling emotionally through her lyrics, which accompanied the music that was in the background. So it's like I think it resonates with people who have gone through similar sort of things. That's the story.
I think the way that Roxanne and also Christina managed to translate a feeling that you had into a song, that's something very special.
Yeah.
And also the way that she sings it and performs it, you can almost feel the pain.
I'd always loved Christina's vocal. She's always been one at the top for me in terms of her range and her tone of her voice. I really, really like it.
She really can tell a story.
Yeah.
She's not acting anything.
No.
About that.
No.
Yeah. So that's a very special release, to be honest. Now 2016, something else, because people probably don't know, but actually remixed this tune, The Game Changer with Will Atkinson.
Oh yeah.
Tell us about that, because that was in the early career, as I guess, from Will Atkinson also. It was suddenly like a happy Picotto kind of melody.
Yeah, it has that sort of old school Mauro Picotto sort of pluck lead sitting on top, and then the rest of it, the rest of it is basically just a Will Atkinson and me sort of seeing what we could get away with in terms of how crazy it could get. I remember I went over to his studio in Glasgow. At the time, the only way I could describe his studio would be a dungeon. where literally it was like where someone had put like sweeping brushes, or like it looked like something where you would throw a load of rubbish in. You just open the door,
like a broom closet.
That's exactly what it was. So yeah, we started it there, and then he came over to my studio for an afternoon to finish it off. And yeah, it was the low end on that one is nuts when you play it out. Yeah, it still sounds it's
amazing.
Pretty crazy,
and I think like I said, I remixed that one, never got released, and I don't even know if I ever sent it to you, but I played it a few times, and people just recognize the melody, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, good times, good memories with that as well, because I remember hearing the melody for the first time. I was like, holy shit, this is nice. Now 2016 comes in, and I guess there's a bit of a style change in trance as well, because suddenly psytrance comes in, and I think you were a little bit ahead of the pack, because you did 2 collabs. You did one with Coming Soon, Anti-Social Media, and also with Vinovici on the Iboga recordings, We Are the Creators. Can you tell us a little bit, why did you go into that direction? Because you came from tunes like By My Side and Emotional Trance, and then bam,
I do think it had started a little bit before that, because I just remember hearing all this psy and progressive stuff, and like the reason why I liked it was because I'd never heard it before, and like especially the proggy stuff, where it had these, just the production on it and the stereo imaging, and like just
so clean.
Yeah, everything was just so clean, because sometimes with the trancey stuff we play, it's so squashed and everything's competing for space, whereas
lots of noise.
But there's so much dynamics in the psytrance stuff, and I really liked it, and I liked playing it out. And as I explained earlier, I couldn't really find enough stuff trancey wise to sort of fill an entire set that I'd be happy with.
Yeah.
So I like to have something to help fill it and fill the gap. And it was sort of, it's just a reflection of the music that I liked at the time. Would I play it now? Probably not. But that's just as your evolution, as your career goes on and your tastes change. The only time you'd really sort of play it, I'd only play it really in Buenos Aires. I'd play there's a couple of tracks that I
would still play.
Yeah, I play it every single time, like Asterix, Deep Jungle Walk, and Pistolero, the Asterix remix. They're my Buenos Aires anthems, I always play them. But even going back a little bit further, you're talking about like Vinovici and like Coming Soon. I remember when we played ASOT in Australia, like I think I was the first person to ever play The Tribe out.
Probably,
Yeah, so taking credit for all the successes down to me.
Was that already before that? When your set got cut short?
That's what I started with Vinovici, The Tribe at that show, and then that's people were going like, what's that track?
Yeah.
And then the guys just absolutely exploded.
Yeah, I remember. This is a moment that I never spoke about before, but because I think that was actually one of the first times that I actually met you.
Yeah.
And I remember because that was a tragic moment in A State of Trance as well, because someone passed in the crowd and you were the last DJ to play, and it happened just before you started playing or somewhere in between, but your set got cut short. And I remember you came off stage and you were devastated.
Yeah, it was very, very emotional and very down. I remember sitting backstage with you at an arm and speaking to you. I put so much effort and I'd look forward to it for so long. And I sort of, there's a little bit of guilt as well, because I was playing at an event where someone had lost their life, but like, it's strange, man. Like literally, I was only thinking about this earlier on, how like tragedy has been responsible for me progressing in my career. Like as I spoke about earlier on, Barry Connell passing away gave me the opportunity to play at Sunrise Festival in Poland. And then with what happened at A State of Trance in Australia, with the event getting shut down, I was getting bottles thrown at me when the music got cut off. I don't think any hit me now, but getting stuff thrown at me, being devastated. But what happened was, because my set got cut short, people's interest in me grew, and I literally went back to Australia literally 6 weeks later, did three shows and basically sold out all of them. So like, it's just
it's like unfinished business.
It's unfinished, but like I don't know whether I feel a bit of like unconscious guilt about the fact that
to be really honest with you, I think if you would have played that set, you still would have been booked back this fast, because there was I remember such a buzz. That's why also, of course, that we booked you for that event as well, because on top of the game, like you were doing all these great tracks. You had Tune of the Year and you're under your belt. So I think even if you played your full set, you would have been back there within no time. So I don't don't think you have to
Yeah.
think about it. But at that moment, I understand that you feel that way.
Yeah, someone's child died. And
It's terrible. It's terrible. And we had to carry that guilt. We still have to carry that guilt for all these years as well, because whenever we talk about Australia, it will always be one of those moments, you know? So yeah, it's still sad that something like that happened. But I don't know what to say about that anymore, to be honest.
I just sort of have to sort of accept it, that like it's not necessarily my fault.
Unfortunately, it's part of of
the scene
our
that
industry,
we're in.
the scene, and not only our scene, but any scene as well, because this happens at sports events as well. You know, like accidents like this happen, unfortunately. So well, let's leave this behind for right now, because 2017 you also mixed the Who's Afraid of 138 album. I still remember that as well. And it was also the year that you released All Over Again.
Yeah, there's a long story behind this one. So I had this, the music in All Over Again, I had as a demo for a couple of years, and I had sent it to sort of a pretty well-known songwriter in the Netherlands. I'm not going to name them, but they're from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And he had sent me back, he'd sent me back a couple of versions. Just something was telling me inside that the vocals aren't good enough, that's better.
Yeah.
So I passed on them, and I waited. So in the meantime, I had remixed Plum's track "Need You Now," and I said, look, I love your voice, love everything you do. If the opportunity ever came around for us doing a track together, I'd love it. And like it just kept getting pushed back, and I said, look, just be patient and wait. And finally the vocal came through, and like it was literally 1 year on from when my dad passed away, and I remember dropping the vocal into the project and
fitted like a glove.
But like it just felt like all over again. It just felt like 1 year on to the day I was going through all the same emotions and the same process and the same grieving. Like I was really, really struggling with grief at the time, and I just felt like just stuff like this it's not meant to happen, but now I can understand why it is happening, you know?
Like the universe is sending messages with that.
Yes, big time. So like I dropped it in and worked on it and debuted it at A State of Trance then in February.
Again, a debut at A State of Trance. Yeah,
man, I've spoke about before, but like ASOT every single year, that's what I work towards in terms of the label and myself. That's the showcase, start, man. Yeah, that's where you show what you really are as an artist. So like I worked on the track, played at ASOT, needed to change a couple of things, and then it finished it in March. We actually finished it in the Music First studio at the time. Yeah. John did the final master and stuff on it, so to take it to that level. And it's just ever since. I actually had a look at the file in my record box, and you can see the info to see how many times played.
Yeah.
It's like 120 times I think I've played it since I've gone in there. But yeah, it's
special.
It's the track I think people sort of connect me to in most. Yeah, it's tracks like that don't come around all the time.
That's one of the reasons why people are resonating so much with your music, is that you know there's emotions behind it, there's stories behind it. It's not just a shallow, here's another song, which the message that you're saying right now with Key 4050 with the new one. And like I said, some stuff just takes a long time because it took you a year almost to find this vocal, but you had the patience for it, and it paid off.
Yeah, best thing I ever did.
Yeah.
I'm not a very patient. Yeah, nearly. Yeah, to that stage maybe.
Yeah,
but like I have no patience, but for some reason I had patience at that time. So
the universe was talking to you. Yeah. That's amazing, man. That's a good story. And on the other side, while you're, again, and this is like a story of your career, if I look at it, is so on one side you have All Over Again. On the other side, here is Smiler by Kearney. So on one side you have the emotional stuff, and the other side you have the banger like Smiler. Is that something to balance things out for yourself, or how does it work?
I think I'm just trying to satisfy both sides of me. Yeah, I love emotion, I love melody, I love all stuff like that, but I love techie, banging, underground, dark stuff as well. Yeah, so like I'm trying to satisfy my angel and my devil are sit on both shoulders.
That's interesting. Yeah, 2018 comes with an absolute beautiful tune as well, which I think was a proper contender for Tune of the Year as well. Opened My Mind with Deirdre McLaughlin.
Yeah.
What can you tell about that? Was it also like a tune that was still laying around, or how did that come about?
Yeah.
Shout out to Deirdre, by the way.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
she did a great job at driving that. Sorry. Yeah. With that one, I basically just created a track, pads, etc., based on sort of a well-known track, which is sort of what I've done a lot. It's a good way to sort of, just a tip to people, like if you're looking for inspiration to try and create something melodic or a demo or whatever, listen to stuff that's not trance, but listen to something that has like melody, like even just like a piano cover or like stuff like that can give you incredible inspiration to make something. True, just change the sounds, etc. But like I'd known Deirdre for a few years. She's really, really easygoing in terms of vocalist. She's one of the easier ones to work with. She's quite quick at getting back to you. There's no issues and stuff. So she was really, really good. She's a really, really nice girl. And yeah, it was a little bit more like compared to say By My Side and All Over Again, it was on more of a sort of positive, not really sort of on the same sort of heartbreak mood. And yeah, it did really well, I think. Yeah, it was a good track. Yeah,
absolute beautiful tune. Now, 2019, I was looking back. I was looking at all your releases. I was like, why is there no Bryan Kearney remixes? And then I realized, the launch of Key 4050. Yeah. After working together on many projects, you and John O'Callaghan started something else, Key 4050. I actually never asked you guys, what does Key 4050 stand for?
When we started out, a long, long time ago, John had an apartment in the Dublin city centre, and there was a keypad on the door. And to get into the apartment, you had to type key 4050. So that's where the name comes from. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I thought it was like a deep mythical story or something.
No deep, meaningful one to this one, unlike most of the other tracks. But yeah, that's where it come from. That's where we started out making tracks. And like something crazy about John was making tracks on SoundForge back then. You know what SoundForge is?
Yeah, that was the software I used to record my softwares, my DJ sets with.
This is how ahead of the game this fellow was. He was copy and pasting sounds on top of each other into SoundForge.
How?
And getting them to sound really, really amazing.
Okay.
So then we moved on to Reason. That's what we started making our first tracks with as well. But then, moving forward, the Key 4050 thing came from that. Like we always had spoken about maybe doing a project together, and then like Dream State came in and we're looking for a new idea. So like we decided that like our focus for like 2019, like that was going to be our main focus. As you said, I didn't really have many releases because the main focus
was Key
4050. Same
some
with John.
Massive shows with Dream State together, of course.
So that had to be the focus for that year.
Yeah. So basically, you produce. I would say it's a project that you produced for Dream State for a set.
Yeah.
And then Tales from a Temple came out of that set.
Yeah. Like we launched, I think we played as Key 4050 for the first time in 2017, but we released the album of all the tracks in 2019.
Yeah.
So we had built up an unbelievable collection of music in that time to from playing our various shows, and like there's still probably an album worth of tracks there that could still be released, but I think they're probably too dated at this stage. But you can thank lockdown and all that for those tracks never being
But
released.
in the meantime, you're producing new stuff as well.
Yeah, right now we are. Yeah, just released one recently on Carnage called Want More.
Yeah,
following on from Feel Less, which was produced a little bit earlier in the year. I think I spoke to you earlier on about Want More, but yeah, it's sort of just it's based around a theme of instant gratification and how everything has just become so disposable now. Track gets released.
A song is a post. That's what it is basically.
Yeah, one post the track is forgotten about. So that's the little message that we put into it. Yeah,
it's a good message to be honest. And I think maybe I don't think anyone knows this, but you guys did a Key 4050 remix of my track with Deirdre and with Prof, but it didn't start as a remix because you created that track already. And Deirdre already sent you that vocals, and then it turned out to be a remix.
John made that one. I'm going to give him the credit for that one. I didn't really have any involvement. Yeah, he sent that one to me, and I was like, "Whoa, this is good."
I remember hearing it. I was like, "Holy shit, this is big!" So
yeah, so like that's the for the project. Like some tracks I'll make, some tracks John will make, some tracks we work together. That's how the project works. Yeah.
But still, there's like sound that really brings them together.
Yeah, it's a happy medium in between. Yeah.
Well, please don't stop making tunes like that. All right, now 2019, also something else happened because, we're talking about Key 4015. I remember that I think the first time we played it on the show must have been like October-ish, something like that.
We sent it to you just before ADE.
Yeah. And it got played on the show, but it didn't get released until 2020. And I strongly believe if you guys released it, let's say in August 2019, it would have been Tune of the Year. Easy.
Yeah. We only finished it in September. That was the thing. I think the file that I have on my USB says the 18th of September. So that's when we actually finished it. So we literally sent it to you as soon as we possibly could.
Yeah.
We debuted it at Australia, at Dream State in Melbourne and Sydney.
And the hype started.
Yeah.
Messages were coming in like, what is this tune? What is this tune? And I remember, like I said, we played it on the show, and I think the voting closed maybe 2 or 3 weeks later, or even like the voting was pretty much done, and then we got played and it was added to it, and then it's still made it like very high. So I'm pretty confident that that track would have been Tune of the Year, but instead of that, it got into the top 50 twice, I think. So
yeah,
at least that's something.
It's an anthem. It's been one of those tracks, and I think what happened was through lockdown and through people being stuck at home, I think people sort of took it as like the unofficial anthem of not being able to go out, because we didn't actually get to play it out that much because of what obviously happened and us not being able to play.
Yeah,
but
because when it was released, it was when lockdown started. Yeah.
But like if you want to have a contender for Tune of the Year, just get Plum to sing on it, because like,
well, she's proven that.
Man, I was bringing the kids for a walk yesterday, and I put on her new album, and I'm just listening to her voice going like, I don't know, there's just something special about how she gets her message across, or the tone of her voice, or the power. I don't know, there's just something that does something to me that just no other vocalist.
It's a storytelling.
She
tells you a story and you believe
amazing,
what she's saying. Yeah,
she's incredible. Absolutely incredible.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Well, Plum, if you're listening, we still have your award here, so we would love to send that to you somehow. 2022. First 2022. Well, where do I start? Because that's a big year for you. First of all, you released Kaya.
Yeah.
Because someone else, some other release was done in 2000. Was it 21 or 22? That your daughter was born.
5th of September 22. Yeah. She was born. Yeah.
So tell us about Kaya.
Yeah. Well, I probably have to go back a little bit. I think I sort of talked about it a little bit that time when Take This got the Tune of the Year, and I explained what happened. But like through lockdown and through that whole period, I went through a very, 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 very difficult time.
Yeah.
And even before all the COVID stuff and all that, I was in a pretty dark, horrible place with my mental health and my physical health. I felt sort of burnt out, felt down, and I just felt like there was something inside me trying to tell me that something wasn't right.
So this was like 2019, 20.
19, 20. Myself and my wife were going through the process of trying to have kids, and I was basically told that because of my situation that I never would have them. But under further investigation, I went to see a specialist in the UK, where they found out that I had a tumour in my kidney, and the reason for my inability to have kids was caused by the kidney causing issues down here.
Yeah.
So it was the most terrifying time of my life to be told that I had a 5-inch tumour. Like, I thought I was healthy. Like, obviously I knew something was wrong, but I felt fit and healthy.
Yeah.
There was no other sort of indication that I was sick. But like, the only way I can describe it is I felt sick for a while. And like, even like speaking to people now, just jumping forward a little bit, they say to me like, we were watching you on stage and you didn't look happy. And that's how I felt. Yeah. And they'll say, we see you now, you just look like a completely different person. Yeah. You just look like you're happy.
So if you weren't trying to get a kid, you would not have discovered that you had
If we were still touring and doing what we were still doing, and if we weren't going through the difficulties,
you would not be here anymore.
I don't know if I'd be here.
No.
I don't know. That's the truth. Now, thankfully, the tumour that I had wasn't aggressive. It didn't spread, but it was big.
Yeah.
Now, so like, it's an unknown question. I don't know if I would be here. Yeah. Could be. I just don't know.
Yeah.
But the fact it was found, had my kidney removed, and then from that was on the 10th of September. 10th of September? Yeah, 10th of September 2020. I had it removed and I was in hospital for 3 days. And then when I got out, I had to start my recovery and trying to sort of deal with everything that was going on. So
the world's in lockdown.
The world's on lockdown. I've no work. I've been told I'll never have kids. I just had my kidney removed. The trauma that I was going through physically and mentally was absolutely nuts. So I had to I gave myself 4 or 5 weeks to sort of try and get myself back to normal. And then we were starting the whole process of trying to have a kid again.
Yeah.
But then what happened was we traveled to Spain to try IVF to try and have a kid.
Yeah.
What happened was I was told I was no longer infertile, that I could have kids now. So
that must have been like a turnaround of everything.
Me finding the tumour, it being removed, then being told I was no longer unable to have kids. It was just like, okay, right, let's keep a bit of hope. Let's keep a bit of hope. Fortunately, we went through another 2 rounds of IVF, didn't work. And then moving into 2021 through lockdown, doing all the streams, doing the podcast with you, etc. Didn't talk about any of this stuff personally. This was stuff I was just going through on my own without speaking about, because I didn't want to speak about any of this stuff publicly until we had my child, basically. Then I could let it all go and speak about it. So then we found out Idel was pregnant at Creamfields in 2021, which was the first gig I did after lockdown, and just felt like, right, everything is turned back around. Wow. And then on the 24th, just all this
is giving me goosebumps, man.
There's more to it, trust me. Honest to God, there's more to it. Then on the 24th of September, we went for an early scan, and that day I had a track out called Euphoric Recall on
Future Sound of Egypt.
Future Sound of Egypt. And that was the day we found out that we had lost the child. It was a miscarriage.
Yeah.
And then it was one of the worst. The irony of it, I call the track Euphoric Recall, and it's the worst moment of my life.
Yeah.
So and then I was playing a show in the Czech Republic, and I had my laptop with me, and I started working on this idea that became Kaya in the end. And then found out on the 1st of January 2022 that Idel was pregnant again, and thankfully everything went fine, and our beautiful daughter was born on the 5th of September today.
Wow.
And I actually played a track in the mix today called Angel Child, which I've actually made
a dedication
as a birthday present to her, and I'm going to release it on her birthday.
That's beautiful.
5th of September.
That's beautiful, man. Wow. I have to say, man, like it's such a touching story, because you've been to the lowest, but you didn't give up, and you got to the highest.
It's all you can do, man. You have to just keep going, no matter how hard it gets.
And someone's watching over you, to be honest.
They are. Even this year, man. This year has been the most challenging year I've ever had in my whole life. Like going from 0 to 1 kids at the age, like I'm 41 now, but like having all that free time, and as I was speaking about earlier on with this job, you have to be selfish, and like you have to sort of have to. It's hard to accept it and to get used to it, but you do. And then going from adding, like as I like earlier, or sorry, late last year, I had twins. So like I've 3 kids under 2. So like it's been very, very stressful. My mother has stage 4 cancer. No. So she has incurable stuff. So she's going through the treatment. I'm trying to keep my career going. I'm trying to keep everything going. I'm trying to be a good father.
Juggling up and down.
It's like, but I'm just doing my best, man. I'm just doing everything I possibly can just to be the best that I possibly can be.
Yeah.
But like even then, I'm jumping forward here, but like even with Shine a Light, that was released on the 5th of May 2023 last year.
Yeah.
That was the day we found out we were having twins. So Euphoric Recall found out we had a miscarriage, and then literally 18 months later, the day Shine a Light got released, found out we were having twins. Or found out Idel was pregnant. Didn't know it was twins at that time.
Yeah.
So all this stuff just linking together, it's crazy.
It cannot be a coincidence anymore. It's if it's so many points here and there, then it has to be
somebody or something is pulling away at things. For sure. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, like I said, there's so much highs and lows in life, and it's all happening to you for sure.
Yeah, I've been through the mill. Yeah.
Well, massive respect that you're doing what you're doing, and I don't know what to say, man. There's just so much going on.
There is, man, and like with finding out, like I have to get scanned every single year as well, which it's constantly in my head.
Yeah.
Sometimes it keeps me awake. I know I wake up in the middle of the night.
Because what's going to happen? Is it
gonna back?
Yeah.
Is it because I don't know. Like I never know. But like you can't really live your life like that. But until I find out that it's not back, I can't really rest easy, and it's horrible. Like I always get scanned.
But then 2 weeks later, and then it's
like
back.
I always get scanned around the end of October. Then I have to wait 2 or 3 weeks. I always get the results in between my Carnage London event and then Dream State in LA. So like once I'm on that plane to Dream State, I know that I'm here for another year. You know, this is the way it's tough, man. It's not easy.
Tough.
No.
But in the meantime, you have 2 little boys running around the house, destroying everything.
One girl who has decided that she doesn't want to sleep in her own room anymore. Yeah.
I think a lot of people that are listening to this podcast can resonate with you.
Yeah.
But also, you have to remember that these same people get a lot of strength out of music that you've produced throughout your life. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people are very thankful for that.
That's what people sort of said to me, especially after lockdown, doing the podcast, like the one I did with you. Like they said that the podcast helped them get through.
For me too.
Yeah.
That's why I was looking so much forward to today, because I've listened to every single one of them. And even if they got like dark and very conspiracy at a certain point, I still enjoyed listening to it because there was so much different insight. And you guys in Ireland were way more deep in than everyone else, I guess. But it helped me to put things into certain positions in my life as well. And I guess it's the same for people that are listening right now.
Because it resonated with you.
But also there's so much things that we don't talk about. Like either we are afraid to show our feelings or we are ashamed for certain feelings. And I think that's one of the things that I have to listen to the full thing, but you have the podcast that Armin did with Will Clark. I think talking about it makes life so much better and easier. Yeah. And also because you're not on your own. You're not struggling by yourself. I think that's a very
problem as well, Ruben, is that we all compare our inner worlds to the outer world that everyone presents. And the outer world that gets presented on Instagram, it's not reality. You know, it's not.
No, because for example, when you told me that you were sick, it was not until you had your whole surgery and everything. I was like, I didn't know that this was happening in your life. You were dealing it for 2 years already. You were dealing with all this kind of shit. And it doesn't show. No. Which is scary, to be honest.
I know.
Yeah. So I'm very thankful that you share these kind of things.
Honest to God, man, I feel more comfortable talking about this stuff rather than like, oh, this track is great and this track. I prefer talking about stuff that resonates on a human level with people because, as I said to you earlier, like there's only a certain amount of people in the world who do what we do for a living. So it's hard for them. It's hard for, if you're not in the scene and you know how it works, it's hard for you to sort of understand what it's like. But everyone goes through hard times. Everyone goes through sickness, illness, grieving, you know. So I think I prefer talking about stuff like that.
So let's delete the first part of the podcast and just skip this part. No, I think because it's also important to know where you come from and how you decided to make these choices as a musician and taking this along in your everyday life, I guess.
Of course,
yeah. Wow. I hate to go back to the music, but we have to because
let's go.
Let's go back to the music for a bit because 2023 was a big year again because you had Shine a Light with Bo Bruce. You remixed Burn with Desire, and correct me if I'm wrong. Burn with Desire is one of your reference tracks. You know, is that correct?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, up there in terms of like that's one of the most iconic vocal tracks ever. Yeah. So yeah, and if you're looking to make a hit, well, not necessarily a hit, but something that you know is top level, that's one of them, you know. Like I actually started that remix just as a bootleg back in 2018, and due to lockdown and not having the desire through lockdown to really finish any of the music, that was one of the remix that actually got finished then in 2022. Actually, I think I only finished it in 2023 and played the final version of it thanks to another Giuseppe Ottaviani stem master. So thanks to Gio again. But like coming back into lockdown and stuff, I like you're talking about the pain and the emotion. Like that's where that pain came from. Like hearing the original of that track, being blown away by it, contacting the artist, explaining, look, please give me the opportunity to do something with this track, and I did. You know, it's an important thing for a little bit of advice for people as well. Like use your initiative. Like ask the unaskable of like, I want to remix this. Ask them. Like if they say no, they say no. So that's
what's the worst that can happen.
Exactly. So yeah, like I put my pain of my experience into my music in that time. Like there's God Help Me as well, which with Plum, which still hasn't been released, which we're trying to get released, which is taking time to do.
That's one of the, because we have to answer a lot of questions from fans also. And actually the first question that is popping up is a question by Laura May, ACB. Could you explain the production process and meaning behind God Help Me? Is it going to be released soon?
Yeah, that's God
that's
Help
the tune
Me
that you talked about.
Was one of the tracks that I made through my recovery from what I had gone through in 2020. It
was an outcry, basically.
Yeah. The vocals, everything in it sort of resonated with me. The vocals made sense to the situation that I was in. We were going through IVF. It was failing. It's a rock bottom song, basically. Yeah. But like on top of that, I was out of work. We were locked down. We felt like it was never going to end. So that's where the pain and the heartache comes from in that track. And we've been trying to get it released and signed. It's a legal maze at the moment to try and get it sorted out. But I promise you, we're doing everything we can to try and get it released.
And again, patience.
Yes.
Patience will
be
pay
released when we get it sorted. And I promise you, we will do everything to get it out at some stage.
The same question comes from Pure AWS, and then please release your track with Plum, God Help Me. So there it is, people are asking for it, that's for sure. Let's see. Oh yeah, this is a good one. Same question also by Pure AWS MD. Dan, you're playing with Mauro Picotto this year. Yeah. How did this come about?
It's
your hero.
He's my God. I used to go to the Temple Theatre in Dublin with an Ireland flag with Picotto going across the middle of it, and then through the middle O, I had a G and a D over the top of it, so it said Picotto God.
Yeah.
He was my idol. I had his poster on my wall. I travelled all over Ireland to go and see him. I used to go to the UK to go and see him. So I think the idea came about from Dream State as a suggestion, and thankfully, he said yeah, because it's a dream come true. Like nobody has inspired me more.
Do you remember he was having these headphones, the Komodo? It was like Sony's, I think, and they were custom made.
Yeah, they were
Komodo
luminous yellow. Yeah, and he used to turn them around and put them on his face when he was playing like this. Yeah, I mean, he was my idol. I'd never seen anyone with so much stage presence. The track selection, the BXR records, Alchemy records. Just he's incredible. And like amazingly enough, as I showed you, we just finished doing the mix, and I went over and checked my phone, and there was actually a message, WhatsApp from him, asking me to remix one of his older tracks, which he just actually signed to Armada here, which is like, it's
universe.
Yeah, I know.
Comes together again.
It's just, it's I can't wait for that show in November.
I'm going to be there. 100%. I'll be there, front row.
We're still trying to figure out how we're actually going to do it, because Mauro plays off Tractor and I play off CDJs. I know there's a way to hook up Tractor through the CDJs. So if there's anyone listening in who could possibly offer in some guidance.
I think you have to ask Armin, because yours for I think they did it back to back.
Okay.
Well, just ask Armin. I think he's away. Dara O'Sullivan wants to know, how did you get Adam Beyer to play your tracks?
Literally just got his email, or I sent it to the generic drum code email, sent them through. Never got a response, which is a quite regular thing. Still, for me, sending music to people, it's rare that you will get a response, but I completely understand it, because
no response, but he started playing the tracks.
He played it, like there was a circle, remember the circle streams? There was like a stream in France or something, and he finished with my remix of Bicep Glue. I was like, whoa, that's amazing.
How did you find out? Did someone message you or something?
I got tagged in it, or I got tagged in it, or tagged in one of the videos that he had finished with the track. And then like other people had started messaging me then, like Oliver Heldon sent me a message going, can I have this remix?
You're like, how did you find out about the remix?
Yeah, like stuff like that is crazy. And then like I send him everything. I need a Techie Kearney stuff or remixes or stuff that I do. I send it to him straight away. He played my remix Ultranate Free. He played that at Awakenings 2 years ago, I think it was. He played that as well. And then he's played one of my originals, I think it was last year at Awakenings as well. Mm-hmm. So the goal for me now, I actually have it written down on a piece of paper, was getting a track signed to Drum Code, his label. I'm going to keep working away. It's going to be very difficult, but let's see.
No, I don't think it's going to be good. I think you'll manage to do that.
Yeah.
another question about Kearney actually comes from Malin Kula Sekera. Is the Marky Mark ID a Kearney track? Will it get a release?
Yeah, it's called Gibberish. It samples Eminem. Drug Ballad is one of the tracks, because I just remember when we were 17, 18, this album from Eminem was out. Obviously, we were mainly into dance music and stuff.
I was just to Eminem all the time.
Yeah, but we loved that
Eminem
album.
show, the Slim Shady EP. Yeah.
So we always listened to that album. I always remember Drug Ballad because it was sort of what we were up to as well at that age. But I always wanted to sort of take a sample from that, and then I took there's another little Eminem sample in it. But sorry to be speaking too much, but yeah, it is a Kearney track. I don't think I'm going to be able to get it released, but I may look at putting it up for free download. It's on SoundCloud.
Okay, we'll keep an eye out for that one as well. Vintron also writes, when are you going to release God Help Me? So that means that half of the questions is about that track, which is a good sign, I guess. Ladies, Laura with another question. What is your dream collaboration?
It's hard to know. Obviously, if I was younger, the dream collaboration would probably be with Mauro Picotto. So maybe in reality, coming up the dream state, maybe we could do something together.
It's very doable, I guess. Yeah. Laura actually has a lot of questions. I don't know if you know her, but she's asking if there's going to be more Carnage events in the near future.
Yeah, we just did a Carnage event in Buenos Aires for 2 nights, and then our main flagship event is the one in London in November, which is the one I really look forward to every single year. And we did one in Belfast earlier this year. But other than that, I can't really see any other ones happening at the moment. But if there is any newer ones or any new cities coming up,
see how it goes.
Online.
Yeah. She also has a question if you have a track already dedicated to Josh and Zach. Well, you have.
Hammer and Mallet is so I've dedicated 3 tracks to Kaya. One was called Kaya, one was called Encanta, which is Spanish for love, and then I've called one Angel Child, and then the lads have got one track called Hammer and Mallet,
and you have to combine it, and it's a banger.
It's basically just because they've deconstructed my entire house. Yeah,
and they're just getting started.
Yeah, and don't worry, they'll get a nicer track in the future for sure.
Okay, that's good. Adam Sparks also is asking about God Save Me. So let's see what else is there. Are you a fan of the new Eurodance sound, and do you think it's good for the trance scene? There's a question by Johnny MC89. That's a good question.
I think I do have a nostalgic ear, and I'm interested in how it's produced and made, and like I think it's okay, but I don't think it's something that I'd sort of play in my sets. No. So I think it's just I think, to be honest, we have a lot of discussions about this as well, and I think the most important thing is that people are listening to dance music in general and then start researching further and finding their sound in there. So I think it's and it's a little bit faster as well, which benefits people like me who play at the higher end of the spectrum.
I guess these young kids, these DJs are all on 145, 146. It's insane. Well, there's a question that's easy to answer for you as well. As German Actist wants to know if you're a fan of the Argentinian football team. Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, more so. How many jerseys do you have? Nearly every kit that I wear on a daily basis. Like all I really wear is like what you see me wearing today is what I wear on a daily basis. Yeah. I think I bought 4 Argentina kits when they got launched a couple of months ago. Yeah, so I've lots. I have one of those as well. It's more the people, their passion and the love and support that they've given to me throughout the years is why I love the country and the people so much. And Argentina is a special place. Yeah, man, it's in my heart, big time. And the first ever football kit I ever had as a kid was a Diego Maradona Argentina kit. Yeah, very first one. So I'm just carrying on the tradition. So no Irish one. No, not really. I don't think I would have had one of them until a couple of years after that one. Like I have a photo. It's the Diego Maradona 10 jersey. It was the first ever football kit I ever had. That's awesome. Yeah. I know you're a fanatic football fan. I think I remember before going to Luminosity, I don't know which year it was. 2016, the Euros. 2016, we went to watch Ireland. You came with us, Yeah, because I think we were not in a tournament, so I was supporting Ireland at the moment. We took the lead against France, and then we lost 3-1. Yeah. And then you had to go to the party. Yeah. I remember that now. Oh, my Lord. let's see. There's another question about another track. Key 4050, The Promise. Will it ever be released? A question about Bevan.
Hard one to answer because legal stuff and stuff. I don't know. Maybe
same thing.
Yeah, maybe I don't know whether we could do it as a free download or an official release. See, this is the trouble with what happened with lockdown and stuff. It threw all our plans out of place. Like, maybe we could have looked at releasing it back then. I don't know whether now it's too dated or if people like it.
Just a reset.
Yeah,
I guess. Well, yeah. I guess you can listen to it in sets, so that's the most important thing. O'Farah writes, God bless your family after hearing Kea's story. Another question, is there a release date for God Help Me? I'm not shitting you. There are so many people asking about it.
You need to tell James this.
Yeah, exactly. Alexander Winkler writes, how tall are you? You always look colossal when you're on stage. Well, I get the same.
Yeah.
I think you must be like 195 or something.
No. I think I'm 189. I think I'm actually look taller than I actually am. I think it's the heels on my runners that make me look a little bit taller. Yeah.
It's the runners. Yeah. It's the shoes, ladies and gentlemen. There's so much questions. Let's do one last one. There you go. That's always the best to end with. Alice Land wants to know what's your favorite trance classic ever created.
This question, man.
It's such a hard question. I know.
I honestly don't have one. There's just too many. But like, if I could give an answer in terms of the most underrated track for me that people don't speak about enough, it's Signum the Time Lord.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Is that something that you should make your own version of if you don't dare to touch it?
Never. No. But to be honest, there's a brand new remix of Shine a Light that I played at Luminosity by a very good friend of mine that is heavily influenced by that track.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're looking for something that's along those lines and may sound similar to me.
Is this a mic drop?
It's really, really good. Yeah, he nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. Yeah.
All right. Now I want to know from you, what are your near future plans besides working with Mauro Picotto on the track and getting it signed to Drumcode?
just to keep making as much new music as I can, to try and keep I've actually released a lot more music this year compared to previous years.
Yeah.
Keep the conveyor belt going, trying to sort of branch out onto labels that I haven't really been on before. Obviously continue to grow Carnage. Just try and keep doing what I've been doing, staying relevant and staying consistent. They're the two
stay
most
having
important.
fun.
Yeah.
That resonates in the music that you're putting out, because I think this must have been the best year so far for your music. I
think so. It's been the most productive one. Yeah,
you're doing some amazing stuff. So thank you so much for answering all these questions. Thank you for being so open and sharing these kind of stories, because I think it's important to talk about things. And bless you and your family, man.
Thank you.
You're a fantastic person, and please keep shining your light on the world with your music and with your positivity.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
That's the podcast today with Bryan Kearney. Make sure to follow him on all the socials and keep an eye on the show and everything he's doing. So thank you so much for tuning in. See you then. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in. Check all previous episodes on YouTube or your favorite podcast portal.